Hello, this is Frank from Primary Sources. The following is a brief excerpt from the October 17th, 2021 interview with the wonderful Peter Dennis. We hope you enjoy, and if you do, we encourage you to look us up and give the episode a full listen. It's full of some wonderful conversation, and Peter is an awesome storyteller. Anyway, we hope you enjoy. Again, this is the Primary Sources Podcast.
Now you're talking our language.
Yeah, movie quotes is what we're all about. So now you're really hitting us. So it sounds to me like it was a mix of formal as well as informal, as well as a real passion for you.
Yeah,
is what it sounds like. Cool.
Yeah.
So to bring that back to the Paperboys thing. So again, we're talking to a very general. We've obviously covered a lot of wargaming stuff today, because that's just who we are and what we love, and that's what you're about.
Yes,
but
sure.
For those who don't really understand what exactly, not necessarily wargaming, but Paperboys, if you met someone on the road who didn't know what wargaming was or what Paperboys was, what would your brief summary of them be?
It's the Paperboys idea is to be able to produce a stand of reasonable looking, decent looking figures, little paper figures, flat inevitably, but with fronts and backs, they're standing in ranks, and they represent a playing piece in a war game, just as three-dimensional ones would, but at a tiny fraction of the cost, and which are cut out and glued together in the old-fashioned gluey way. So you have the fun, you still have the old craft thing, you still annoy your mother by scattering snippets of paper all over the floor and using stinky glue while she's trying to watch the telly. So you've got all that, you've got all that enjoyment, but it's a way of getting into this fantastic hobby without having to take out a second mortgage, or if you're too young to even have a mortgage, just pocket money prices to be able to produce the sort of armies that I used to have when I was their age. But of course, it's been taken on not by these mythical children, but by grown men who appreciate it too.
Peter, I just got to say too, as someone who's spent years and years building plastic and metal miniatures and painting them, the very first time I made my first sheet of Paperboys, it was such a refreshing change of pace, and I just had a blast doing it. We have a Facebook group with our group of friends here, and I actually did like a vlog of me putting these guys together, and it was just so much fun from a craft point of view. So yeah. I have to thank you for that.
Well, I'm still doing it. I'm still getting this fantastic thrill. If you look at I know you look at the Paperboys page, and I've been doing these 10mm figures.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And I just look at these things and think, my God, these are fantastic. How long are these? And so I'm still getting this same sort of thrill of the new, just from things we're doing. And my friend Mirko Brunner, who's doing the technology, he's doing the photoshopping and creating these amazing pages. That's a new sort of technology that I'm using. I did everything by hand before, so the pages are all often a little bit sort of wonky and how's your father? But I kind of like that. Again, we go back to this aesthetic thing. I kind of like that idea of that it definitely wasn't sort of made by a fantastic computer. But when you do get Mirko working away with Photoshop, these ranks of men are just so impressive. Each sheet looks like the Nuremberg Rally. It's
yeah. Oh, it looks so good, and that's the thing. Me and Steve, we have a joke. This box behind me is filled with wargaming manuals and rule books, and we play everything under the sun. DBA, Black Powder. I put out my own called Prime and Load. Like we play everything, and so we've got collections for everything in every scale. We've got the 15mm American Civil War. We've got 28mm Perry Revolution. We've got 28mm World War II bolt action. I have Warhammer, Age of Sigmar. I've got. We have everything, and what is always crazy is you know how it is. As we said before, 1 hour of playtime usually equates to at least 6 hours of prep, because you have to you have to build, paint, whatever. With the Paperboys, you can do like an hour of work and you're like, okay, I'm ready for a small game. And that's kind of the nice thing is such a nice change of pace because of that. You have the enjoyment, as you said, of kind of having the sticky fingers for a little bit, and you feel a little artsy and crafty, but it happens so fast and they look so good. And if I may, the one other, and of course, I'm not sitting here saying anyone should ever intentionally damage their models, but the nice thing is because they're paper, you could drop it, you could get it wet, and you're like, oh no, I'll print out another one. There's such little problem with that, you know.
It's funny, Frank, too, just really quickly, because being a professor, if I ever wanted to start a wargaming club at my university, you know, again, these are university students. They probably don't have a lot of money, a lot of time. They should be doing the reading for class, which they never do. But, you know, that I've often thought about using Paperboys for that very end, right? To get students into wargaming. I would never in a million years bring my private collection of metal and plastic into class, but I could do it through Paperboys, and they look great, Peter. I mean, they really do. The detail, and Frank and I, when we've done our War of Spanish Succession battles, I mean, you look at it from these different angles, and it's very impressive.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
No, for sure. And actually, the one thing I wanted to ask too is, so right now with Paperboys, so you have Napoleonics out, you've got American Revolution, you've got the Romans I've seen, you've got Civil War stuff coming out. What are you working on right now? What's the latest thing?
Well, at the moment we're doing this little 10mm. There's a set of rules that Osprey published called Absolute Emperor by an American guy called Boyd Bruce. Or was it Bruce Boyd? No, it's Boyd Bruce. You guys always have names you can swap over. So do I. my name's one of those. But and it deals with
Boyd Bruce, by the way.
Boyd Bruce.
Yep.
Yeah. Huge scale battles in quite an interesting way, and I liked very much the idea of the game. I didn't like him using 28mm. So you get 4 or 6 guys, and that's a division or a brigade. And I think, nah, it's not.
And for those listening, like a division or a brigade at this time period is like how many? Like Napoleonics, a brigade would be multiple thousands, and a division is tens of thousands of people. So you know, 6 models doesn't really represent that scale.
That's right. So that's what the little 10mm guys are about. But people use them for a lot of other stuff as well. But the whole thing is designed for these rules. But so that's what I'm doing right this very minute. But the next thing I should be doing very soon, because it's almost completed, that series, is I'm going to go back to that Rus fantasy. So we're going back to a bit of fantasy, the medieval Russia, and I'm going to look at a different attitude with a really sort of crazy mutant threat, but also with the Teutonic Knights and various other people have been drawn into the battle.
Cool.
A lot more Mongols, and one of my Russian friends is Dmitry, is researching into various Tatar tribes, and he's really quite heavily into this. The paper soldier thing in Russia was very interesting. I didn't realize it was so strong in Russia.
Really?
And there's a lot
what do you mean by that? Like, is it just like compared to America and Britain and the Western world? Like, what's Russia? What's their take on it? Are they like ass over tea kettle for it?
Yeah, I don't think they've had a very strong sort of toy soldier thing going on in Russia too much, because they're expensive to make, and Russia was not a wealthy sort of society. So the paper soldier thing is quite strong. A lot of people draw their own. And these guys have sort of come to the Paperboys page and give me ideas and nagged me and got onto me, and they're quite serious, really. More serious really than I am about all this. And I'm dealing with them, but they're fantastic at sending me information, especially on odd Russian things. Really fantastic, because I mean, a lot of Russian archives are now open that were closed before, so they're very, very keen on their own history and on all sorts of history that they had no knowledge of in the past. So that's blossoming in Russia too.
Wow.
But I've lost the track now. How did we get into this?
Oh, we were just talking about what you were doing next, and you were saying you're doing Russian. No worries. So that's going to have shipping. There's medieval shipping on the river. There's going to be a great battle. Oh wow! So there's going to be like a naval element to this too. That's really cool.
So that's going to come in, and some other weird stuff. But then after that, I'm going to be doing late Romans, including
cool.
the
Very
Nice.
Arthurian period in Britain. So we're going to have Goths, late Romans, Goths, Huns, Alans, and the Saxon shore and all that lot. So that's
Wow.
I'm looking forward to that.
That's
Very
really
cool.
cool. That's awesome.
I've always been more interested. So it's great because you have the Republican Romans too. And then if you're doing late Romans, I always found that the marginal periods of Roman history to be more interesting, right? It's like the empire always gets its attention and it deserves that attention. But the late and the early parts of Roman history are always what fascinated me. So that's really good news. I'm happy to hear that.
And on top of what he said too, the fact that you're doing Arthurian legend stuff is fascinating. And I don't know about you, but I'm really excited to get that and then put on Time Team on YouTube and just kind of blow through that as I put together figures. So I think that's gonna be really cool. All right, well, I think it's time to wrap this up a little bit, just because I think we've been going for a good clip.
We've stolen enough of your time.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Likewise, and we're looking forward to trying to have you back for a round 2 and really get more into it. So again, real quick, so where can people go to find the Paperboys?
On the Paperboys page on Facebook, and then there's the website, which is Peter's Paperboys, possibly.com. I can't, but you'll find it on the old web, and the Hellion Publishing books is about, I don't know, a dozen maybe more, dealing with quite a few periods. So they're out there. Paper Soldiers will find me if you just put that in, I'm sure. So this old video of me making Paper Soldiers. So it's out there. It's easily accessed.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Right, cool.
Thank you so much, Peter. I mean, this was truly a pleasure. And again, some kids grew up on comic books. I grew up on Osprey Men at Arms. So, it's kind of like I'm meeting my hero. And I know Frank would say the same. So again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, because we know you're busy and you have a lot of things going on, but it's really been a pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure for me too. Bye-bye now.
Yep. See you later.
Take care.